Well, it's November 2023. Welcome to SpeakEasy Online. There's a couple of notices before we start. The next in-person SpeakEasy will be happening at the Source Collective on Wednesday, the 29th of November, a 7:30 start. I'm going to do a cheeky plug because Doctor Who is celebrating its 60th anniversary on the 23rd of November, and on the 24th of November, I've been roped into a fan celebration of Who at the Green Room Theatre in Carlisle. It's there I am doing me Tom Baker. Would you like a jelly, baby? And it's free. I think we've sold but donations are welcome. And it kicks off at 6:30 in the evening, and I think there are 90 tickets already booked. So we better be pretty good. It's essentially a script reading of some favorite scenes and some sort of fan fiction all tied together in a nice celebratory collection. And then there's a little quiz afterwards as well. So you might win a prize. But yeah, so that's that. And then
so Phil, I've got to butt in because I'm a huge fan of Doctor Who, and I'm old enough, I'm going to admit it, I'm old enough to have seen the very first episode live, well, whatever it was. And did you know that Doctor Who's first episode was so popular that those people who missed it did like a campaign, and the following week the first episode was re-shown because everybody said, I've got to see this thing. There you go.
I heard another story that it was because everyone was shell-shocked because it was the day after John F. Kennedy had been assassinated and no one watched it the first time. So they decided to put it on immediately the next week.
My story is better than that one.
It is.
More upbeat.
It is. Mine's thoroughly depressing.
John, yours also goes to prove we don't need social media to get things done.
Precisely. Yeah. I like this. It's good. What else? Oh yeah, on the 1st of December, there's a book launch happening for this lovely new collection of poetry that the Brampton Poets have put together, and that Called You Press has published for them, and that's happening at the Brampton Community Centre. I think it's 6:30 for 7 p.m. On Friday, the 1st of December. And that should be a lovely evening of readings and some refreshments and fun and jollity and the wonderful hospitality of the Brampton Poets. And please, everyone is welcome. Come along. And the book retails at a recommended retail price of £7 for 160 pages of poetry goodness. There it is. All the lovely poems. There we are. Shall we get on with some actual poetry now? Yes, Jane's there going, definitely. Carry on. All right. It's really good to see you all. Well, this is in response to some of the stuff that's happening in the world at the moment. It's called An Eye for an Eye. Goes like this. If we take an eye for an eye, are we blind to all those who die? Civilization reduced to ruins, fear and uncertainty stalk the land. Innocent people caught up between hostile forces. A tinderbox blows up. Wrong actions on both sides. Religion and belief underpin actions. Thou shalt not kill, conveniently set aside. The world hold its breath. How do you take sides? And this is not the only so-called global trouble spot. There's always someone to blame. We should demand responsible actions of our leaders, or will the world descend into the final end game? Acceptance, tolerance are needed. Desperately, we want the killing to stop. Where's the humanity? Where is the love? Peace is better than conflict. Words are better than war. Stop the attacks. Start the talking. Is it too much to ask for? And that's that one. Thank you very much.
Tell us about it, Phil. Tell us when you wrote it and how it all came about.
Well, there's been weeks of the reporting on the news, and it was just appalling what we keep hearing, and it's such a difficult subject to unpick. I wrote it on the morning of the 25th of October, which was the last SpeakEasy in person, so it must have arrived in time for me to read it that night. And I was just trying to just distill the fact that there's so many horrible things on both sides, and it's such a terrible. I mean, what happened on the 7th of October was horrendous. The response it seems almost equally horrendous, and there's so many pieces about responding to what's going on, and it's just there's so many other conflicts going on in the world right now, and that's dominating the news headlines. It's just really sad, really. And you know, it's the Holy Land. I mean, it's the Holy Land, and it's been thousands of years of conflict. I mean, there's something about that, and every religion seems to have this suggestion that thou shalt not kill, but you know, that seems to be the first thing they forget. But that's just how I feel about it. Anyway, who has to follow? George, you've got to follow that. Have you got something for us?
Yeah, I always look at a few things, but I've just pulled up something just now. I was also just thinking, I had an uncle, Margaret's uncle actually, who was an elder in the Church of Scotland, a very religious man. And one day I was sitting talking to him, and he said, "You know that most of the wrongs in the world are inspired by religion," which is a terrible thought, but it's true, isn't it? But anyway, I'm just going to follow on, and it's basically the same song. And is it right? Vengeance is mine, say the wronged, who wrong in their turn. And those who pay the recompense have nothing but themselves to give, sacrifice to gods of righteous rage. Some are proud as others weep, none care tomorrow's weeping will be theirs. And I cry, say nothing, think revenge on every household. No violence has no ending, have a desire to punch. Shut my eyes, my ears, my heart.
George, that's really good. I mean, there's a feeling of helplessness at the moment, isn't there? What do you think about that?
Yeah, but it's this thing about. I mean, I feel like, as I was saying to my mate, it's a bit like me saying, "See the woman behind you. She's really annoyed me by something she's done, but I've got a baseball bat here, and I'm going to club you to death because I just can't quite reach her at the moment." And somehow or other, we sit here and say, "Yeah, they're entitled to do this." I don't think you're ever entitled to do this. You know, whatever the wrong. I mean, there are so many wrongs about all sides. But this goes back for, ages. We've created, as man's created this, but I mean, unfortunately, we sit here as individuals, and all that you can do is scream, really, and hope that, as you were saying earlier, that if enough of us keep screaming, eventually the leaders will start saying, "Well, actually, we can't stand this anymore." Or more likely, they think if they're all screaming, they might not elect me next year, and I might lose my money and my pension and my power and the glory. Goodness. I also get I'll do one later about the cenotaph, I think, but I worry about we still talk about the glorious dead. Sorry, glorious. I know that you have to try and justify it in some ways when you've lost someone you love, but I don't like the idea that we militarize it and glorify all this stuff. We should actually glorify. We should really have a service for mothers and fathers. Remember all the people who lost their children and their future. Anyway, sorry, I'm rambling on. Thanks.
No, that's great, George. Thank you very much, George. Very moving. Okay, Elizabeth, do you have something for us?
Hi. Yes, I will segue a little away from. I find it really hard to take at the moment and looking at the news. So rather than trigger myself, I shall read something out of my little book, the Undoing. But unlike you, well-organized chaps, mine is still in my book, so I'm holding it in front of me. So I'll apologize for looking at the book sometime. I'm not. I'm unlike you, Phil. I'm not very good at remembering stuff. I would have made a terrible theatre person. So anyway, I grow my hair. I grow my hair until it is a wide spread of eagle wings, and you run afraid as a rabbit runs before the dark shape on the ground. You raise a small cloud of dust. I raise you to the sun. I grow my hair until it is a wide sweep of ocean. You sail my storms in fear, steer by the stars and sun, until I suck your ship into my deep currents. Our atoms become one. We are rain, grass, rabbits. I grow my hair until it is a wide curl of light from a supernova. It envelops planets, tangles the universe. I drag you screaming to oblivion. Yet you are made from the dust of stars. You dream of them. I grow my hair until it is a wide lick of a tongue that speaks things men fear more than death. If you would escape this, then run, my darling, run. You raise a small cloud of dust. I raise you to the sun. Yes, that is quite an old poem. It was published a long time ago in Ms. Lexius, but it's still one of my favourites.
Fantastic. Do you have your book there? Do you want to hold the book up to the
Yeah,
camera?
yeah, I'll do that. Thank you, Maytree Press, if you're listening.
What's the title?
I will tell. It's called The Undoing.
The Undoing. The Undoing.
Yes, it's back to front in my monitor, but hopefully it won't be. I never know what happens in other people's monitors. So.
Oh, we got it the right way around. It's fab. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
good.
Fantastic.
Well, thank you for listening.
Thank you. Look forward to the next one. Okay.
I had to choose it carefully.
All right, Stephen, we're with you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Lovely. Well, first let me say that any poems I was going to read have died with my phone.
Oh no.
But I have here a little story. So bear with me, it'll be 2 or 3 minutes. Is that okay?
That's fantastic.
If you nod off, I can see you on the screen and you'll be marked down. It's called Nancy and Joe. Grandma Nancy told us that it happened a long time ago. She was 18 years old and sobbing into the washing up water after Christmas dinner. The family were sitting round chatting quietly and some hushed music was playing on the gramophone. We had shared a chicken dinner and we'd had a small Christmas pudding too. She remembered little Billy had found a silver sixpence in it and everyone laughed when he held it up and shouted, "I've got sixpence, I'm rich, I am." Nancy stood there at the sink with her hands in the warm soapy water, still weeping, thinking about poor Joe, her lad from the village who had promised they would be married as soon as peace came and he was safely home again. But this was the second Christmas of fighting in France and the lists of other casualties were longer and longer each week. Every time a telegram boy rode along the street, everyone held their breath. And just before Christmas, it was her turn. Joe's mum came crying and wailing to the door with the terrible news that Joe was missing in action, and they should all prepare for the worst. Nancy was distraught. She sobbed all day and howled through the night, but on Christmas Day, she tried hard to be brave because of the children. She had gone to church that morning with Joe's mum and sisters, and they had prayed that he would be found alive. The little ones didn't really understand what had happened, but they knew she was very upset and should be left alone to grieve. Nancy remembered standing with her hands in the water as it cooled, wondering what the future held for her without Joe, and she couldn't help feeling alone and full of despair. After a while, she dried her hands on her apron and blew her reddened nose. She could see her reflection in the kitchen window, showing the lamps in the room behind her and the family there. Nancy could see the trees moving in the garden too, and then she saw a face, pale and indistinct, but it was her dear Joe's face through the glass, looking straight at her. The hairs on her arms stiffened and she gasped. "Joe," she whispered, "Joe." He smiled and raised his hand and seemed to say, "I love you, Nancy." And then he was gone, and there were just the trees moving in the darkness. She wondered if she had been dreaming or just bewildered by tiredness and grief. It looked like Joe, and his lips moved in the same way. Nancy was sure it was Joe. The days and weeks went by, and of Joe there was no word. It seems that there'd been a huge explosion in the trenches where his battalion were fighting, and many men were blown to pieces and never identified. He gradually and sadly came to the conclusion Joe must have been one of those, and that he'd been killed. Nancy never told anyone about having seen him in the window on Christmas Day until she told us all many years later. She often went and had quiet moments standing looking through the window into the dark, wondering what she'd seen and what it could mean. There were lots of stories around about soldiers being seen by loved ones after the time of their death, so maybe that's what she'd experienced. Later in the new year, Nancy was alone in the house one evening, staring out into the dark garden once again. Slowly, Joe's face appeared as before, like last time, but closer and a little clearer. She was transfixed as he raised her hand and smiled, and his dear lip formed the words, "I love you," before the image faded away, leaving her distressed once more. He had looked so real and somehow alive, although his family had given up any hope by then. Nancy decided not to say anything, as it all seemed weird, but she felt somehow a little less sad than before. And then a real miracle. Joe's mum banged on their door the next day, and this time there were tears and yells of joy as she waved a telegram which read that Joe had been reported to be a prisoner of war in Germany, wounded but alive, with every chance of him being invalided home in exchange for wounded German prisoners here. They were ecstatic at the news, and when he arrived home again months later, he was very quiet. And although he had forgotten many things about his injury, he did tell Nancy that twice he had vague memories of seeing her in the kitchen and trying to tell her he was alive and that he loved her. In turn, Nancy told him of what she had seen, but they agreed it would be their special secret and share it with no one else. He eventually recovered enough for them to be married, and they lived happily until he died peacefully after many years. But there is another strange but true happening Grandma Nancy wanted us all to know. 3 days after his funeral, just after Christmas, she was standing at that same window with her hands deep in the suds, and she wasn't at all surprised when his dear old face appeared to her for a few moments, long enough for him to smile, raise his hand and say, "I still love you." Ta-da!
Absolutely. So tell us how much of that is true and how much of that is made up.
None of it's true, not as far as I know. I don't have a Grandma Nancy. It came from a rather strange picture, which I've never had attributed, showing a young man's face, which appears to be through a window, and I took it from there.
Wow. Shows you where the imagination can take you. That was amazing, Stephen. Spellbinding.
Wrote itself, really.
Yeah. Oh, those
first
are the best ones.
First of all, I wrote it in the first person about a year ago, and then recently I've shortened it and changed it a little. Good fun, though.
Yeah. Well, you had John convinced it was all true.
All right, John, it's true now.
Fantastic. Thanks, Stephen. Terrific stuff. Thank you.
Pleasure.
All right. Jane, we're with you. Have you got something for us?
Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can. Hello.
Hello. This is written, I've just realised 20 years ago, but some of the things in this probably resonate now too. It's called BAM, 2003. Yesterday, they responded to my cries. Hassim called out his name for me. His older brother Ali moaned softly for his mother. A German with equipment came. He said that last week the earth moved just the same in Paso Robles, California, and only 2 were killed beneath a hurling clock tower. Great Satan must be a mason of some skill. As time fell still for the 2 Americans, Ali and his friends were busy killing time, embellishing the wall that was to bury them with death to the infidel, to the US and to Israel, their heads bobbing together like sleek seals. I swam in rubble with diving hands, but I couldn't reach them. They were in too deep, and last night the cold killed them. Kanjani reassures us that despite their expertise, there will be no help from Zion. The fire station and the new hospital fell first. The citadel crumbled on the hillside like a sandcastle patted by a child's spade. Mariam's hand lolls from the blanket I cannot expect her to keep. One finger has snapped like a new stem. In a denim jacket fastened to the chin, Fatima, almost 13, faces her rapt mother, eyes open in surprise, slightly slack-jawed as if absorbed in a fascinating story and waiting breathless for the end.
Wow. So before John asks you, I'm going to ask you, what was the process behind that one then, Jane?
Just the devastation of that earthquake and how preventable it was, and how much help they could have had earlier on had there not been all the old prejudices. And about 34,000 people died, you know, and a lot of the construction there was sand brick. And although I think there was legislation in '89 to stop them building that way, a lot of buildings didn't conform to regulations. And the same, there are I read it because there are resonances of the same prejudices, I think, that we're experiencing now in the face of war. And earthquakes kill people too. The thing about earthquakes is they're indiscriminate, and yet now it looks like the enemies are killing each other's children, and that seems to be the aim at the moment. I don't think there's a side. I think I've said before that there's only one side, and that's the side of the children, the murdered children, and the violated women. That's a side to be on, I think. That's my rant. There you go.
Thank you. Okay. Peter, with follow that if you can.
Well, I haven't written anything specifically related to world events, current world events. I sort of, it would just be a 2-word poem, like stop it, you know. And there's all the other global stuff, the global warming stuff as well. I've written a couple of haikus. There's a project called Hot Poets. They were collecting haikus to take to the international global warming conference. And they've taken a couple of mine, which is nice. But other than that, this is one that's almost finished, I guess, that popped into my head when I was in the garden a couple of weeks ago. So it's written during this period of world tumult, and it has a passing reference to it. But it's more about mortality, I suppose, and stuff like that. Anyway, and its working title is What Do You Remember? Maybe 50 years ago, written in biro, pressed into the front cover of a telephone directory laying on a dark wood side table beside a telephone, beside a cheese plant, maybe, that's leaves are scarred with little crescents made by fingernails pressed into their flesh whilst the listener was distracted. The single, simple phrase, He sicked up a big brown leaf. This has surfaced now, could be the words that remain when the rest of the mind is lost, a final thought, a password through darkness, mocking the pointlessness of dreams, worry, ambition of existence. He sicked up a big brown leaf. Said by a grandmother about her dog, idly jotted by a sister, noticed and stored in a brain, then pushed to the fore on a cold October morning with the world still on the edge a lifetime later. He sicked up a big brown leaf. Do not forget this phrase.
Yeah, it's funny what stays with us through the years, isn't it?
And just pops into your head for no apparent reason.
So Peter, you've got to tell me that that's a real phrase, that you've not done a Stephen on me here.
No, that's a true story. It was also written over several, the way people go over the letters several times in one of those old telephone directories by a proper phone.
We'll all remember it now forevermore.
Yeah.
It's going viral.
Great. Brilliant. Well, I'm conscious that we've only got about 3.5 minutes. Is that enough time for you, John?
Yeah. What I want to tell you is I'm going to read you a poem that's not the one I was going to read you, but the one I was going to read you was brilliant. But this one isn't. This is a poem that I wrote the other day when we were at Portobello outside of Edinburgh. And it's called A Moment. A moment of contentment takes me by surprise. The quiet, the tang of salt upon my tongue, the waves rolling in breaking lines of white, the sea silver in reflected sunshine, the sky blue, the air still, fresh to breathe. The feeling of calm sweeps over me. Only a moment, a welcome respite. As I turn away, I promise myself I will remember moments like this. But the other one was brilliant.
Even better than that. That's great, man. So we
Was it true, John?
Sorry?
Was it true?
It was. I was just like at Portobello, and I was like standing looking out at the sea, and I thought, I feel happy. And it's like I'd better record this, because like all of a sudden you're in a place and there's a moment of contentment, and then you don't have that too many times, and they don't last that long. So I thought, I'll capture it. I'll capture it for Stephen.
It's usually the moment you notice it disappears as well. It's the living in the moment. It's the being in the present rather than thinking about being in the present, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's so much easier to remember the times when you're not content. So that's why I thought I would capture this one.
No, that was lovely. Thank you for sharing that with us, John. I'm going to say hello to Janetto. Hello. We've only got about a minute. Hello, how are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm getting over a cold, but I'm good. We've only got about a minute left on this call, so we'll have to sign back in a jiffy. I know a couple of people said they might have to drop off, but we've all had a go. So if you can find a piece, Jeanette, you can read, and then we'll start going around again. But yeah.
Lovely. All right,
Okay.
I'll do that. Thank
Okay.
you.
I'll push the button and we can sign back in with the link. And if you can't make the second half, thank you for tuning in for the first part, and we'll see you again soon. But yeah, see the rest of you shortly, and enjoy the party.
Yeah, thanks very much, guys.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, I'm here.
I know,
Sorry.
speak of the devil, there you are.
I was hiding. Right. Try and get myself organised. I think you've all heard this before and probably many times, but I'm chuffed it's in South Flight 34, so I'll read it. And it's got a little, you see, a drawing as well, like a half a face of a Buddha. So it's called The Art of Not Thinking. Just breathing, a flushing out of ego, a flowing in time, to the whispering of a pencil, pendulum on parchment, a portrait of Buddha. And that is that. Thank you.
Can you read that to us again? Because it was over so quickly.
Yeah, find it. Got a little sticky note in to find it. There we go. Yeah. The art of not thinking, just breathing, a flushing out of ego, a flowing in time, to the whispering of a pencil, pendulum on parchment, portrait of Buddha.
That's brilliant. Yeah, it could be your own mantra for setting up some kind of Buddhist retreat or something. Yeah.
Yeah, do you know, I quite fancy going on one, a Buddhist retreat. But yeah, maybe on my to-do list for next year.
Yeah, yeah.
Buddhist poetry retreat.
Yeah, that would be. I was on a writers retreat in France in September. Actually, it was lovely. Yeah, good to get away, because when you're at home and you've got everything else going on, you don't always get the chance to write, do you? So being somewhere new is inspiring.
We missed you though.
Oh, thank you.
And youth is lovely, Jeanette, down in Wales.
Sorry. Where, sorry?
And you the Welsh Writing Centre in
All right.
it's near Cricket, it's near Portmaddock, and
Yep.
it's one of the less expensive ones, I tell you.
Oh, that's good to know. Do you know, I've never ever been to Wales, so I could put that on my to-do list. Would you mind sending me a link to it, please?
Yeah, I'll try and remember.
Lovely.
But if you look up the Welsh Writing, it's TI, and then it's NEWYDD, I think, something like that. Anyway, but I mean, I think. Well, I'm going this year again, but from memory, I think the courses are about £650, £700, which compared to like Arvin, which is now what, £850, £950.
All right. Oh yeah.
And you don't have to cook your own meals there. They cook all the meals. Well, you do your own breakfast, but the other meals are all provided. You don't know how at the Arvin and at Moniac Moor in Scotland. I don't think, I think Garsdale Retreat, they cook all the meals, but there you're at the mercy of the other cooks in the course, or the other people in the course, as to whether they can cook.
That could be a writing prompt in itself.
Wow, cool. Oh, this sounds really cool. Yeah, if anybody else knows of any other writing retreats, please let us know. And yeah, we'll send Jeanette off, and you can report back on which is the best one.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Mission. Thank you. I refuse. I mean, I accept. Not
The
a
Philip
refuse.
Hyde Poetry Retreat spell.
Could I have a poetry passport?
Oh yeah. Well, we could make a collection of your travels to poetry retreats. There we are.
I know somebody who runs a women's poetry retreat down south somewhere. I'm just trying to look it up.
That would be great.
Cool.
There is someone does ones on Iona, but it's quite a small. I mean, you need to book quite well in advance, etc., because I think they're almost fully booked from the start because there's a limited number of places. I've always fancied going there.
Oh, it's happening this weekend, unfortunately.
Oh, is it? Oh, no.
So it would be next year, yeah. But you know, I can't. She doesn't say where it is. She's just saying, "Oh, we're off to the thing this weekend."
Oh, right.
So she say where it is.
At a secret location.
Yeah.
Oh,
there
well.
you go. It's the Kingcombe Centre, Kingcombe Centre, KINGCOMBE Centre in Dorset.
Note that one as well. I just need more holidays and more money.
I think 2024 is going to be busy poetry year for you.
That would be wonderful.
Cool, cool, cool. And well done on getting that into the Satellite magazine as well. That's really,
Thank you.
really cool.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okie dokie. Well, we're back with me, I suppose. I'm going to read one of the pieces from Beyond Borders, and this is, I've read this on here before, but it's called Writer, and it chimes with what we've been talking about. It was actually inspired after the attack on Salman Rushdie last August of last year, and I got to thinking about that. So it's called Writer. It goes like this: a conduit for ideas, expresser of opinion, purveyor of theories, offering critical analysis, which may prove controversial and upset the apple cart of established wisdom. Working on the fringes, scribes of the shadows strive to communicate with others concepts that may go against the grain, to give unpopular views, perhaps, an airing. If something is plain wrong, if it is demonstrably ill-founded, causes deliberate offense or inciting of hatred, this would need to be challenged. Debate is healthy. Evidence-based dialogue is surely a consideration. But to target a writer, author, or artist, intending to kill a creative person for expressing ideas which you don't agree with, for standing up and speaking, is frightening. Is it cowardly? Executing individuals in the hope of killing ideas? Tolerance and freedom of speech are most welcome, as is the freedom to disagree. Artists are supposed to question and hold others to account. To be a writer is a privilege. To be creative with words is a freedom not everyone in this world is free to enjoy. Where there are problems, we need a writer. Where there are injustices, we need a writer. Where there are lies and deception to be uncovered, we need a writer. To shed light in the darkness, we need a writer. To share our knowledge and ideas, we need a writer. To share our common humanity, to make this world a better place for tomorrow, we need a writer. To heal ourselves, we need a writer. To change all those wrongs, we need a writer. Yeah. Oh, thanks very much. There we are. Okay, George, back with you. Do you have another for us?
Yeah, following on from John's piece about a moment at Portobello, I'll share this with you. There is a time. At Ruskin's home, the terrace bees are long busy in the sun. The day is young, it is but 8. Other than their buzz, stillness hangs across the morning. No man-made sounds join the morning songs, playing in the trees. A faint breeze patterns the water. I relax in this cool haven, realise there was a time all woke to feel the land like this, unburdened by radio chatter of foreign wars and refugees. No politician's ego casting shadows on another good question is bluffed into silence. Wish I could shut down haunting thoughts. A sparrow forages the cafe tables for yesterday's crumbs. Far below in Coniston, two ducks shippered a line of young. High above, a lone crow dips and twists. I sip coffee, let warmth seep through my mind. They are alive, so am I.
I better ask what John would ask if he was here. So did you write that at Ruskin's house? And
No, I didn't actually. I wrote it in October this year. It was after listening to, I mean, I don't listen to the news now. I try to as little as possible, just enough to try and keep up to date with what's happening. But every time I hear the first 4 headlines, I just turn it off again because it upsets me. And I thought back to a lovely morning at Brantwood where I'd sat in the terrace alone, and just as I did try to describe it there, had this memory of how peaceful it was, and thought, at one time people woke to their own concerns. They didn't have radio, they didn't have all this clutter and bustle of modern life. They just lived the life that lived with the countryside they had. And I think probably looked at it more closely than I look at it because I'm too engrossed by all this bollocks, sorry, excuse my all this rubbish that we wake to every morning. Put the news on first thing. Why? Why? Just so that I can get upset again for the day. Anyway, that was the background to it, Phil. So it was a memory of being on the terrace at Ruskin, at Brantwood.
yeah, fantastic. I keep thinking that yeah, the news is too weighted down with bad news stories, and there's not enough good news stories. I mean, there's no news like bad news, but we need some good news in the mix. I think it's getting too one-sided. I think
the bulk of the world is actually made up of really nice people doing really nice things, but you don't hear any of that. And unfortunately, I mean, I tried to visit. There's a lady near me she's really depressed. She has been for years. So I try to pop in every day, couple of days, and she's just sitting there and gets every morning. She listens to television news and the radio news and just gets more upset about all these things that are happening. So it's got a terrible burden for people who are not directly involved, but it's still weighing so heavily in their mind. I know there's nothing that the news can do about it, but this 24-hour news, I think, they keep analysing it over and over and over again. Basically, why don't they just come on and say, listen, the news today is there's a lot of mad people killing a lot of bad people, and there's a lot of bad people killing a lot of mad people. So now we'll move on to so-and-so just help pull a dog out of a pond, or someone helped someone who had fallen in the street. Wasn't that nice?
There's a quote, I think it's in a film, and for the life of me I can't remember it. It may just be apocryphal, I don't know, of somebody seeing a disaster, like a building had collapsed or something on the news, and they were really upset about it. The young person was really upset about it, and the parents said, "Don't be so upset. Don't be upset. Look how many people are helping." There's, what you're saying. There's more people help than cause the problem.
Yeah.
Bad news sells as well, unfortunately, I think. Clicks on the internet and all that sort of stuff if you put the terrifying headlines up. It's human nature.
Yeah, they'll have analysed all this with psychological triggers and things. Yeah, we got to try and remember the positives. Thank you, George. And Elizabeth, have you another piece for us?
Yes, I have, if you can bear another one out of the little book. I don't think I've ever read this one in public, so anyway, you have to make up your minds. It's called A Face. Who would have thought that the tiny spot on the window frame where the light caught a jewel when the rain came in would become a stream that would leave a stain on the wall beneath, reminiscent of a face. It was nearly Christmas, so you drew round it in blue pencil, gave it eyebrows and a halo in yellow crayon. The rain came some more, and the plaster cracked like a lightning bolt on the wall, so you gave the face a scar like Frankenstein in the film. And when January came, your father put a new window in, and the rain stopped coming in, but the stain remained, and you still thought it a face of some kind. So you drew on spectacles, a moustache, and a big cigar. Your mother was fed up. so papered the wall in a tasteful Georgian stripe. You could have thought you had imagined it all, until the paper bubbled up and peeled away, and you saw a crack like a lightning bolt and a shape reminiscent of a face.
That's wonderful.
Thank you. It's certainly a child mind activated, perhaps with an adult sensibility.
So is that based on real events then, or?
Well, not exactly. We were terrible children, but and drawing on the wall was something that didn't, we weren't exactly averse to the idea. And of course, when you have old window frames, it's quite fascinating to a child to see. I still quite little drops of water and things that tell stories are still fascinating to me, even as a mature person. So, but no, we used to like messing around when Mummy and Daddy were elsewhere. But I didn't actually do that. I hasten to add. But
it's amazing the stories where you sort of, if you're redecorating and you peel off wallpaper, and you can sometimes go down to the plaster and see what's written on there. People have left messages.
Yeah, there's a purple submarine on my son's bedroom wall somewhere. And we just left them, so you can do what you like on the wall. And when we came back in, the whole bedroom wall was covered with a kind of sort of 4-meter long purple submarine in felt tip pen. But it was actually better than the wallpaper we put up. So it's still there.
That's brilliant. I remember seeing the comedian, the late Sean Locke, at the Sand Centre a few years ago, and he said, Cumbria, he said, I was down in Barrow a few years ago, and I got talking to a girl in the pub there, and she said she worked in the submarine factory. And I said, what do you do? And she said, oh, I paint submarines. And he said, oh yeah, what colour? He just went black.
Oh, it should be purple.
They should be purple at the undercoat anyway. Yeah. Wasn't there an old Cary Grant film where they painted his submarine pink or something?
Yeah, there was, because they didn't have I think they ran out of paint or something. And I do vaguely remember the film. Did it not have some women in it who were like they had to help?
They rescued some nurses from the island.
Yeah, that was it. And I remember there was a bra and this engine, and anyway, it was quite funny.
Is it Operation Petticoat? Is that the one?
Way.
Surely the submarine should have been painted yellow.
Yeah, we've all lived in one of those from one time or another, haven't we?
Yeah, there's no comment. Okay. Stephen's gone. Jane, we're with you.
Sorry, for some reason I wasn't prepared. You'd think I didn't know I was reading poetry in a Zoom call, would you? Right. I'm reading this because it sort of reminds me of these sort of epiphanies that people have been writing about the things that make us unexpectedly happy and happen out of the blue. A young female blackbird explodes on my window, comes down like a star. I watch her closely at a distance, as I've done for other birds who concuss here on my house, then nest into the gravel. Her open tweezer of beak remains stuck. Her eye dulls. She stretches as if basking and rolls over stiffly on her side. Garden clogs on wrong feet, I run to scoop her up, crooning and massaging in whispers. Indoors, a blurred new planet of swan-necked faucets, trees of mugs, a wet beach walkway of draining board, could well be the last sliver of anything she sees. A light orthodontic spray of tap water spatters from the piano of my fingers, beads her head and beak. Silently, she speaks and swallows. Her blind eye rolls up halfway. A ball bearing of water hits it like a blackbird splays on a window. I wonder if her neck is broken. I say things I wouldn't normally say. I stroke her head with my forefinger. This is completely for myself. We go outside. I take her in. her overlapping tweed of covering, still pillowed by some young feathers, furred at the quill, a chest like stitched moss. She feels heavy in my lap as if soaking through the cloth, though she is oiled shut and as light as sherbet. A claw grips my middle finger. She hinges upward on one leg. I check beneath her. The other one's a child's lifted crab of helplessness. Emboldened, I stack her shuffled tail, make her neat for whatever's next. She moves her neck. Not broken then. She fixes me with her full beam, the shutter of her third lid back in action. A rainbow judders up the lens like a lantern slide. I withdraw my touch while she tries the wing on her good side, like a dancer extending a pose. It works. The curled arachnid of her clutched leg begins to flex. She wobbles up. Wait, you haven't tried that other wing. That too works, as far as the guttering. She sits, unusual, back to me, for about as long as she had me captive.
Now you have to tell us about the process, because John has started a thing where I have to ask everybody now.
I know.
He's not even here.
You don't have to ask. Yeah, blackbird came into the window and I rescued it. I miss a lot. I find poor birds around outside. The bigger birds are the best because they leave their imprint, but they fly away. And I've had hawks and pigeons and doves and all sorts go into the windows. And the bigger birds tend to survive, but the little ones not so much.
Yeah, the wood pigeons always tend to leave those massive silhouettes on there, and you think, how much
with their
dust do they
heads to one side? Yeah. Yeah. But they've usually been okay. Yeah. It's a bit of the garden is full of birds, which is great, but we do lose a few, I'm afraid.
Oh well, you do what you can to help them. That's good. Okay, Peter, we're back with you.
Okay, so this one is more in line with what other people have been doing about moments, noticing moments. Well, this one, I have a Honda Jazz, and it's only a little car, a little hatchback, and I decided to turn it into a little mini camper, which basically just means taking the seats out so I can lie down in it. And I tried it out one day, and after the first night in it, I went up to Scotland and found a favourite spot and spent the night in it. And when I woke up in the morning, this is what I wrote. It's got brackets in it, by the way, so I'll try and, I don't know how I'll convey that, but I'll try. It turns out that it is possible to sleep. When I say sleep, I mean lose consciousness, for a few hours in a stealth micro camper. When I say stealth micro camper, I mean car with the seats folded down. In the mountains. When I say mountains, I mean valleys. Beside a babbling brook. When I say babbling brook, I mean constantly gurgling stream. And wake in a bright fresh dawn. When I say bright fresh, I mean bloody freezing. To the sound of wildlife. When I say sound of wildlife, I mean farm dogs barking and crows cronking. Having dreamed of love. When I say love, I mean lustful flames that guttered before catching. And a song in your heart. When I say song in your heart, I mean earworm. Having put aside your worries. When I say put aside your worries, I mean willfully ignored your responsibilities. And over a hot mug of coffee, when I say hot mug of coffee, I mean lukewarm cup of coffee-flavoured water. Wonder if things aren't going to be so bad after all. When I say aren't going to be so bad after all, I mean could get worse.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
And when I say brilliant, what I mean is I absolutely loved it.
Thank you.
That's so funny. That was great. What a great technique that is. That was you did that beautifully, Peter. I have to say that was terrific.
Oh, thank you. It's like it's about second guessing yourself all the time.
That's good. No, I like that. And you explained where it came from beforehand, so there's no need for any of John's questions. So I'll move straight on.
Yeah, cool.
Ginetto, hello, we're back with you.
Yeah, I totally agree. That was wonderful, Peter. Right. I'll indulge you in some haiku, if that's okay. Okay. So I've got raging autumn, dried leaves rise in the fire. And then I've got, this'll be me tomorrow. Cloud in the morning, a shift handover, factory smoke. And one more. Yeah, this was inspired by a walk along the beach at West Summer. Clinging to rock as the tide turns, bladder rack. That's them. 3 short and sweet. Well, maybe not so sweet, but 3 short ones. Thank you.
That was sweet. Yeah. Did you write the haiku in haiku form for any particular reason, or was it just what came to mind?
There were to be written as haiku because I'm part of the British Haiku Society, and one thing I've learnt from them, because you get free mentoring, I always used to try and do the 5-7-5 syllable thing, but what they said is you don't need to do that. It's just 3 lines putting something into a moment, and so I felt less restricted by having to be counting on my fingers all the time.
Wow. It's so effective though.
Makes you see things differently, I think, but writing does anyway, doesn't it? As does painting and drawing and any form of art.
Well, we know.
So are you aware of the Hot Poets haiku project, Jeanette?
Oh no.
It's coming close to its end now, but it's writing haiku about global warming.
Right.
You'll find them on Facebook.
Hot Poets Haiku Society.
Well,
all right.
But it's for a specific project, and they give a prompt every now and again, and they're collecting a dozen haiku from whoever submits them to be included in a film that's going to the COP28, is it now?
Mm-hmm.
So there's lots of people sort of putting haiku on their pages. They're doing strict 5-7-5 though.
Oh, are they? Right. Oh, that's interesting. But that'll make me get back into it if I had to go.
Yeah, just look for Hot Poets on Facebook. You'll find
right.
it.
I know magazine, The Heron's Nest, isn't it?
Heron's Nest. I think you've mentioned that before, George.
Yeah, it's a haiku magazine.
Right. Yeah, I just tend to send them to the British Haiku Society or Time. So I can cheat and say I've had a piece published in Time magazine, but it's Time haiku.
The Heron's Nest, it's modern haiku they're looking at, so it's not 5-7-5.
Oh, great.
I mean, it can be 5-7-5 if you want, but broadly speaking, they're looking at modern, what they call modern haiku.
Nice, thank you. I know the British Haiku Society, I think it's with collaboration with another publishers, but they're looking for haiku on the theme of light. I think you have to send up to 30, and with the potential of getting like a pamphlet published. I think the last date of submission is maybe end of this month. I can forward the link to anybody if anybody's interested.
Cool, cool, cool. That sounds really good. I was going to say, we all know where the dangers of haiku, because David Simmons has wrote so many haiku about Carlyle. We put them in a book for him, and there's still about 400 that aren't included. And he thinks in haiku now. He just, everywhere he goes, he sees things in haiku form. And it's like, oh, David. He needs therapy or something. The book is the therapy, I guess. Excellent. That's the slippery road, though, because you end up thinking in haiku all the time.
You're always capturing a moment then, though, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Cool. That sounds really good. Good luck with all the haiku stuff. Fantastic. Okay, we've got about 5.5 minutes before we need to sign in again. I came up with this one. It's not quite a song, but it's not quite a poem. I'm sort of a frustrated singer sometimes, and when I sing, I end up with a frustrated audience. So fair to be frustrated. This is called "Thinking of You." It goes like this. I don't know where it came from. Sorry, what? What?
Can you hear me? Sorry, before you go on, I've got to go. It's Sarah's birthday today, and she's just phoned me from St. Vincent, so I need to go.
That's all right. Give her our best. Wish her happy birthday. And
I will.
See you soon, yeah?
Bye. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Oh, wait. Okay. There's so many birthday parties happening today. What? It must be a popular day. Anyway.
Must be about 9 months since a big celebration of some sort.
I presume so. Let's not analyze it. It's not Valentine's Day or something, is it? Might be. Yeah. You find out all sorts on these calls, don't you? Anyway, okay. It's thrown me a bit. This will be the last round. We'll go around quickly, and then here's my frustrated song, which has been frustrated from even beginning because of people making a grand exit. Anyway, thinking of you. It goes a bit like this. I get lost in your eyes every time you look at me in surprise. You're like the moon, the stars, and the sun smiling down on everyone. Warm like a crackling fire, you get me caught up in my endless desire. When I held you tight, from that moment I knew everything was all right. But it was only for a short while, but everywhere that I go, I now see your smile. I wish you had time for me. I know it's not fair to ask you to be the girl I hope to have near. From when we first met, I've loved you, my dear. I get lost in your eyes every time you look at me in surprise. You're like the moon, the stars, and the sun, smiling down on everyone. There's a sadness in you, but a kindness and joy lives there too. When you don't know what to do and the world is falling apart, know that I'm thinking of you. And I may not be that lucky man, but in times of trouble, you should know I would hold your hand. I get lost in your eyes every time you look at me in surprise. You're like the moon, the stars, and the sun, smiling down on everyone. There you are. I'll remember that for Valentine's Day. All righty. George, we've got 2.5 minutes. Is that enough time for you? Well, you're on mute. I'll have to ask him. George.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I'll just find the thing I was going to read, which is, sorry, this is a found poem. It's very short. Bottom composting. Weak sun keeps temperatures low. Compost bins full with kitchen scraps, soggy, compacted, airless, turning smelly. You need to find dry stuff to break it up. Cardboard, toilet rolls, egg boxes, crumpled paper and envelopes. Herbaceous and shrub pairings are dry, hard to compost. If green and sappy, put shallow piles on the lawn, lower the rotary mower onto the heap. As broken up, they are less dry, compost well. Alternatively, chop up by hand, dampen with water from heavens or from watering can. With larger wood prunings, make a dead hedge, a wonderful wildlife-friendly spot. We've willow, clematis or ivy between the poles for an attractive windbreak. This way, you'll have a sheltered garden and a sweet-smelling compost bin, not stomach-churning odour.
So some gardening top tips from Gardening George there. Monty Dunn, watch out. Is that based on a true story, George? I mean, I have to ask this now out of everything.
It was found from a gardening magazine. I just edited out the phrases in it, and I just thought it. Well, it's slightly more light-hearted than most of the stuff that I usually write.
Cool. So top tips. Which gardening magazine was this in?
Oh, I can't remember.
We must have all the details, and I'll send them to John Langham, and he'll be on the case.
That's what it was.
That's great, George. Thank you very much. All right, I'll push the button. We'll move, and we'll quickly finish off the round. We'll be back with Elizabeth when we start. You okay, Pete?
I'm sorry. I'm going to have to. It's 10 to 9. I'm going to have to scoot.
That's all right. So. Thank you for joining in. Your contributions have been wonderful.
Very much.
Thank you so much. We'll see you again.
Yeah. Bye.
Cheers. Push the button. We'll be back in a second.
I feel that we're in an Agatha.
Yeah, there's fewer and fewer each time, isn't there, George? It's just.
Yeah, I thought it's like I can't remember what the story's called now because it's going through. But you know, the 10 little whatever it is, she took out the original title and then it changed to another title and then it's changed again. But it's the same sort of thing.
And then there were none as the title. I think it has now.
That's
which is probably the way it's going to be heading in the next 10 minutes. It's been really good. Thank you all for coming and everything. As I say, we've got Elizabeth and then Jeanette. I'll finish us off.
Well, I'm going to do another poem that involves hair, not because I need to go to the hairdressers or anything like that, but it's called Candidate. The woman is annoyed because the rain makes her hair frizz. She worries that the cloud around her head makes her seem nebulous, unfocused. But she wants this job, she really does. In her new business suit, she walks the street in tight, shiny shoes until she comes to a big door marked push. And she pushes it hard and the door opens wide. Everything is as impressive as she imagined, a gleaming glass atrium rising to the sun. On reception, there's a smart and smiling young woman, confident in her tailored dress, corporate logo embroidered on her breast like an owner's label. I'm here for an interview. The girl's smile sets. There's a dash of condescension in her manicured voice. Let me take your name. I'll check the list. The girl's hair is slicked tight, slapped into place. Makeup too perfect for mistakes. The woman can feel her hair spring out, freed from product and spray. It seems to rise like thistledown, hovers in a cloud around her face. Who can own her with a halo like this? Interview from hell.
Yeah. I hope this doesn't become the interview from hell, but is this based on a true story?
No, it's my observations. No, it was bad enough when I used to work in industry that you felt like you were owned by your superiors, as they like to describe themselves. And it didn't make, when looking back over the years, I think it's worse now for young people going into industry, because there is this sense in which the corporate identity takes over your life. And I find it very disturbing. And I'm quite glad I don't have to do it anymore. No.
Yeah, it's almost like that Faustian pact, isn't it? You're having to make a deal with the devil or something.
Yeah. But you have to. The idea that you have to sign into somebody else's belief system and behave the way they. No, you can't say certain things. You really see it all the time in politics, and BBC people can't talk about their personal politics and things. It's like they've become anonymized, which it goes very deep into the ethos of certain organisations now.
It's strange that, isn't it? I mean, because people they should be entitled to their personal opinion, and it should be clear when it's a private opinion and an opinion made on behalf of an organisation or a company or something. I mean, it seems pretty clear cut, that.
Yes, you would think so, but free speech only applies to those who can afford it. And,
that's true.
Pull the strings.
Yeah, I have a poem about it, about being at a lunch which was populated by rich people who kept talking about people like these. And I thought, really, what you meant is a person like me, but I'm not supposed to be like that while I'm here. These people have never worked, says the man that inherited a shipping line.
Yeah.
Inherited.
Yes, there's a lot to say, and I think when I was young, you could afford to get to work on public transport. Now they expect people on minimum wage. I shouldn't be jumping on a rant. To be able to afford to get to work on a bus, and it's only because they've reduced it to £2 and it's vaguely possible. So anyway, my kids get very fed up with me reminiscing about those wonderful times. Anyway, there we go, the candidate.
Well, indeed. Well, you're always welcome to rent here. We had some good.
It's good to know.
During the pandemic, we had some good rents.
I bet you did. We have quite a lot of wine here, but
that helps. Oh yeah, let's not rerun some of those rents, but yeah. No, thank you, Elizabeth. It's been, and thank you for all your poems this evening. They've been terrific, and thank you for sharing them. It's really lovely.
Well, thank you for listening. It's nice. It's nice to get out there sometimes.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I'm hoping I've got a spot for at book at Cakes and Ale next in January. So I'll be putting something on Facebook about that.
Oh, cool.
With Kelly Davis. So
fantastic. Okay, we'll keep an eye out for that. So that's something to look forward to in 2024. That Janetto's already got a very busy diary of poetry events in 2024. But there's another one for you. Yeah. Hey, Jeanette.
I'm saying yes, definitely. I will. I would love to come along.
She'll do our best. Okay, Jeanette, we're with you. Have you got some more for us?
I've got a haiku, and a small poem. Right. The haiku, it just reminded me before of what I've written along a while ago, and it was back in the 575 days. So it's 5, 7, and 5, banging loud within my head. Haiku hangover. Thank you.
That's brilliant.
And, and then this next one, this was inspired by our writing retreat in France. And none of us had met before. A couple of us had met online, but it was at Rod and Martin's beautiful farmhouse in near Limoges. But we all got on so well, and we were talking, saying we'd found our tribe. And Rod and Martin made us beautiful bread and food and looked after us so well. It was just so wholesome. So this poem's based on that. It was written on the terrace on the final morning. And if anybody wants to look on my Facebook page, there is a blog that Rod wrote about that writing retreat as well, which is wonderful. He's a great writer. Anyway, it's called On the Terrace. From the breaking of bread, homemade bread, with a gentle pull to a burst of berries, cradled in jam, to a ripe, fresh tomorrow, holding on to the reds and greens of wholesome food, with a crack of sugar in our tribe of nuts, knowing that enough is plenty. Thank you.
That's brilliant. That's really terrific.
And I'll give Tracy a mention as well, because there was Rod, Martin, Tracy and myself, and we all got on so well. And Tracy's a talented writer and Martin is a very talented artist too. So,
Wow.
we had a wonderful time. So we're gonna catch up again next year.
Cool. Sounds like you got a wonderful little collective going on there, actually.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, do keep us apprised of what comes next.
Will do.
That's excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Well, I think we're just about there. I was going to do a little piece just to round out the evening. But thank you all for joining in. It's been great. This is a terrible, another terrible song. And I apologize for the content. I've been ill recently. And the last time I was ill, I made up a song about being ill. And I had chickenpox. And it was horrible. Now, this is a song about being ill, but not with chickenpox. And I can only apologize. It's another sort of country lament about being ill. And I'm going to give it a go. I'm still not 100%, so I might croak my way through this, but I can only apologize. And there is a little bit of graphic illness described in this, so I can only apologize. Sorry. Now you're all dreading it. Okay, it's called the Ill Again Lament, and it goes something like this. It all began with a tickle, then a rawness and a scratchy red throat. There's a nasty cold doing the rounds. Heed the warning, you better take note. There's been a lot of snot, but so far I ain't seen a single spot. So far away from the world I have hidden. It's not as much fun as I first thought being bedridden. There's a lot of snot, but so far I ain't seen a single spot. Bedfellows of mine have been mucus and phlegm. I've tried not to pass it on, but to those who caught it, I feel sorry for them. There's been a lot of snot, but so far I ain't seen a single spot. I've devoured soothers, paracetamol, and keep eating, I've done my best. Nothing quite beats sleeping all day and getting my rest. There's been a lot of snot, but so far I ain't seen a single spot. Last time, there's been a lot of snot, but so far I ain't seen a single spot. There you are. A terrible sequel that no one asked for. Oh, you're very sweet. You foolish people.
I could recommend it to our choir leader and she could do a rendition of it.
Oh, terrific. Well, I'll send you the chickenpox. Oh, that'll get you banned. Thank you all for joining in. Give yourselves a round of applause for everyone who read tonight and everyone who sang and everyone who listened, everyone who left and everyone who stayed to the very bitter end. Thank you very much. It's been really terrific. As I say, we've got a live in-person speakeasy on Wednesday the 29th at the Source Collective. We'll try and do one of these online next month, sometime before Christmas. We've got an in-person speakeasy on Wednesday the 20th of December, and then John Hegley's up in Carlisle on Thursday the 21st of December. I think the Carlisle Writers Group have got information about that. I think it's on Eventbrite. So there's details online about those events. But yeah, thank you all for coming. Get home safe. And we'll do it again soon, shall we? That's really good tonight, guys. Give yourselves a round of applause again.
Bye all.
Thank you for organising it.
Thank
Very well.
you.
Thanks,
Sorry I
Phil.
missed some of it, but it's been lovely.
It's been terrific. You're very welcome. And don't worry about it. All right, take care. We'll do it again sometime soon. Cheers, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.